In every part of the globe, we find people engaged in some form of worship. To adore something other than ourselves seems a part of our very nature. Islam considers this urge to bow before a greater power an essential part of our spirituality. The prayer of a Muslim is meant to develop a deep, personal relationship with God the Creator. This relationship is expected to carry over into all aspects of a Muslim's life. Every area of endeavor, whether done on a personal or collective level, is supposed to reflect the consciousness of God. The uniqueness of this way of life is that it isn't based on a set of dogmas or blind faith. Muslims believe that the proof of God's existence can be found throughout the universe, in human history, and within man himself. In Islam, God, or Allah, is unseen, but the signs of a single supreme being that has no partners are everywhere. Allah is described as the cherisher and sustainer of all that exists. He is most merciful, capable of unlimited compassion and grace. For Muslims, nothing in the universe can be compared to the Almighty. The relationship between the Creator and created in Islam is straightforward. Muslims call upon God directly, at any time, with a firm belief that the All-Knowing is listening and will respond to their prayers. Nowhere is the social and spiritual consciousness of Islam more vividly portrayed than here. This is called a masjid, and is more commonly known to us as a mosque. To our understanding, a mosque would be a combination church, school, town hall, and community center. In Islamic history, vast complexes housing universities, hospitals, and libraries were all linked together with the mosque at the center, a holistic approach to worldly and spiritual affairs. This approach is now being emulated in many mosques throughout North America. Over 1 billion people around the world are Muslims. Islam is at the center of a colossal spectrum of countries, cultures, arts, and languages. But the images most of us see about Islam rarely give us the opportunity to appreciate the many civilizations that fall within its domain. The word Islam has a number of meanings in Arabic: peace, purity, surrender, and obedience. Muslims describe Islam as accepting the supremacy of God's will above our own. A Muslim is anyone who freely makes this conscious commitment to God. Two facts about Islam affect us all. It's by far the world's fastest growing religion, and contributions of Muslims throughout history have had a profound impact on the way we live today. Dr. Abdullah Hakim is a respected scholar of Islam in Canada.
People tend to think that most Muslims are Arabs, but actually the Arabs only make up 15% of the Muslim world. The largest Muslim country is Indonesia. And actually there are more Muslims in Indonesia than the entire Arab world.
When basketball superstar Hakeem Olajuwon wanted to learn more about Islam, he looked past the stereotypes and studied its true teachings. What he found was a new outlook on life and the edge he needed to become one of the game's great players. At the heart of Islam is the Quran, which is regarded by Muslims as the last testament, God's final divine revelation to humankind. Every word of the Quran is believed to have been chosen by God and then revealed to the Prophet Muhammad over 1400 years ago. Muslims believe the Quran has remained in its original form, unchanged since the time of its revelation. The Quran regards reason and intelligence as important gifts of God and challenges human beings to use these gifts. Do they not contemplate on the Quran? If it had come from some other source than God, they would have found a great deal of contradiction in it. These are the first verses that were revealed of the Quran. Read, in the name of your Lord who created man from something which clings. Read, and your Lord is most gracious. It is he who taught by the pen, taught man that which he did not know.
Well, this verse is a very significant one in that it actually goes into the depths of human life. It speaks about a fertilized egg, a zygote, which clings from the inside of the uterus. Now how, 1400 years ago, could a person have known about what goes on inside of the human body? But this is only one of the miracles that we find in the Quran.
The whole natural world in the Quran is called a revelation. literally. It's a revelation. So scientific pursuit is actually unveiling the meanings of a revelation from God to humankind.
Hamza Yusuf is an American-born teacher and student of Islam.
In the Islamic tradition, knowledge is the birthright of the human being. That every human being is endowed with not only the desire, but the right to seek knowledge.
Pre-Islamically, women, of course, were considered to be subhuman, and not only in pagan pre-Islamic Arabia, but also in prior revelations, women were given a much lesser role than a man. But as we know, God has created man and woman equal. We are equal in the eyes of God in faith and knowledge, and that has been told to us in the Quran by Allah.
Nancy Ali was once a Roman Catholic nun. After coming to Islam, she's played an active role in sharing its teachings with others.
So women still have that freedom to go to the hilts with whatever she wants to pursue in the field of education, as long as it's, of course, a field with dignity, and share her knowledge with the rest of the world, just side by side with a Muslim male.
What I do as trained teachers is have them rethink their whole notion of what European history is, and rethink their whole notion of what this European Renaissance was about. That rational thought, whatever the mind can think of intellectually, scientifically, was never seen to be the enemy of Islam.
Audrey Shabazz is the executive director of AWARE, Arab World and Islamic Resources.
We now are learning that Latin Christians in the rest of Europe also sent their sons. We don't have any evidence that they sent their daughters to the great universities in Cordoba, knowing that the first thing that these youngsters would have to do would be to become fluent in Arabic, sort of to take the equivalent of ESL classes, so that then they could take the whole range of academic things that were offered to them in every field. And there were no universities in the rest of Europe at the time.
The great contributions made in areas such as medicine, optics, science, algebra, geometry, there's so much of that, a good deal of which is still forgotten. And even when it's remembered, the tendency is to simply speak of it very briefly and very quickly.
Dr. John Esposito is professor of religion and international affairs at Georgetown University and the author of many books on Islam. He's also the director of the Center for Muslim-Christian Understanding.
Islam's flourishing occurred during the Dark Ages, and then when, as it were, Western culture bounced back, it borrowed and reborrowed from the Muslim world. On the other hand, there's almost a need to forget about that. You know, one doesn't like to feel that one's culture is totally dependent upon the other. And then given the historical confrontations at different times between the Muslim world and the West, there is even less cause to want to see what one borrowed as opposed to seeing the otherness, you know, the tendency to almost want to demonize the other.
Today, Muslims all over North America are building Islamic schools like this one inside a mosque near Toronto. Here, Islam is not presented as a faith, but as a way of life. Rubina Khwaja teaches a grade 1 and 2 class at this full-time Islamic school.
Islam does not teach you to secularize the religion and anything else apart from religion. So they're trained from the very young age over here to see Islam as something that is normal for them, something that will be normal when they grow up and have their careers or their jobs or mothers and fathers, whatever they be. And what we try to do is we try to establish a relationship of the Creator and everything that is created. So when the children learn about the trees and the leaves and the oceans and the ponds or the phases of the moon, whatever it may be, it's part of our curriculum, but we teach it first from the Quran. What does Allah teach us about that in the Quran? And then we learn from there. What we hope that will result from fostering the Islamic spirit in everything they learn is that they grow up to be confident individuals, individuals who can function in society as Muslims and to help the other people in the society. They can see where Islam fits in. Like, it's not something separate, but it's something that's very nice. It's something that's very normal.